Okay, good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the IFAJ webinar on how to build a successful freelance career in agriculture journalism. I'd like to first thank our panelists for taking the time to host this webinar, and of course, thank you for your interest and for your presence. Before we begin, I like each of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Lindy, please.
Hi. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Lindy Botha. I'm an agricultural journalist in South Africa. My work is predominantly in the print space, and I've been freelancing full-time for the last 7 years.
Okay, your turn, Sarah.
Good morning, at least here in Brazil, and thank you for inviting me to participate in the webinar. Speaking as a Brazilian journalist, freelance reporter, and international correspondent working in Europe.
And I will want to conclude with Christian. Christian is here. Martina?
No, he's not here. I will try my best to bring him into the room.
Okay. But we can start asking some questions about this webinar. For example, I think it's a good question to start. So how do I determine if freelancing full-time is financially feasible? If you like to start, Lindy?
Yeah, so I think everything just starts with a basic budget. You need to decide what is actually the amount of money you need to come out with at the end of the month. Obviously, that's different for everybody. And so I think first establishing what your income needs to be, and then also establishing what your overheads are. For me personally, I actually find the overheads are quite low. Once you've got a laptop and you've got an internet connection and you don't even need a camera. You can, for me as a print journalist, I need to take photos, but I can do it with my cell phone, although I do have a camera. So your initial startup costs are actually really, really low. And then after that, you need to figure out what publications are feasible, who is taking freelancers. And then unfortunately, the rates are generally set by the publication. So there's not much wiggle room in terms of negotiating prices. And then it's always difficult to try and figure out how much work you are feasibly going to be able to produce and get published, because producing is one thing, getting it published is another thing. So it's definitely something that starts slow in my experience, but it picks up. And once you've grown your network and you've got enough contacts in the industry, then you find sometimes the work finds yourself. But as a freelancer, you always need to be on the lookout for new opportunities and new publications, and then just trying to work out feasibly how much can you produce in a month and how much income will that bring in, and if it is sufficient to cover your overheads.
Awesome. You agree with Lindy. Sarah, what's about your experience?
Okay, currently I don't work as a full-time freelance reporter, so I can add my perspective on how I adapted to make it viable. I do occasional freelance work and at the same time running my own communication company, serving clients in Brazil, specifically as a press officer. These companies were already my clients when I lived in Brazil, and I keep them with me those days, living in Hamburg, and they are all connected to the agriculture sector. And I also work with events as a master of ceremonies, especially at events related to agriculture. And that's why I am in Brazil. I am doing in Brazil exactly right now. So I live in Europe, but with a direct connection to my home country. In this case, I can say, yes, it's viable, but there are some challenges for sure. In my case, to move to Germany wasn't structured around my professional change. It was due to an invitation extended to my husband, he's engineer, to work for an Europe company. So I've been adapting and organizing my career abroad over this past 2.5 years, which includes many jobs as a freelance reporter, both for Brazil radio stations TV programs, and a major magazine. Although I had already covered some international events in the past, while in Brazil, for example, COP26 in Scotland, the World Dairy Expo in the USA, and the Royal Agriculture Winter Fair in Toronto, Canada. It is clear that today, being in Europe, opened up opportunities for me that I probably wouldn't have if I still lived in Brazil. Today, my geographic location is a key factor in receiving invitation as a Brazilian freelance reporter in Europe.
Okay, welcome, Christian. I'm so
Hey,
glad
yeah.
to see you, my friend.
So great
We
to
are talking about how do I determine if freelancing full time is financially feasible?
Okay, big question. Maybe I should say a few words in advance. So I'm now already in the business for I would say around 30 years. And I started doing my studies of forestry, work for local paper, and it was for me more or less something like a student job, more or less. And but by the time I discovered that it's really an interesting business. So when I studied when I finished my studies of forestry, so there were not really good jobs available. So I decided to make my plan B to my now new plan, which was a journalism, made a journalistic education, and with this, I have to say I grew up on a farm, so I had the farm background as well, and we won also a little farm. And so, coming back to your questions, or to your big question, more or less, it was for me a decision of my heart to start my own business. So I made a journalistic education, worked as worked for a local paper, employed, but decided this is not really what I want. I would like to work for myself if I make a little bit of the overtime and so on. And therefore, I decided to start my own business, which is called Landpixel, and this was 2005. And just a few days ago, we celebrate the 20 years of Landpixel.
Wow.
And maybe I can describe, if I have 2 more minutes, a little bit what my business is, and yeah, then also for sure about the money. So I started with writing. So writing is my profession. I was never doing a lot with photography and so on. I just did it beside. But the people in the group who are, yeah, let me say 40 plus, they maybe still remember that for photography 30 years ago was not with JPEG and digital and so on. It was just with regular film and so. And I was one of the first who worked with digital pictures for magazines from the sector like forestry, agriculture, renewables, and so on. So this was my let me say my benefit when I started my business. And more or less, I wanted to write, but I did then a lot of picture, and I discovered really fast if I sell a story, and with the story I can also then sell a few pictures. It's much more money instead just only the text. So yeah, maybe I became better and better, and I had my pictures digital when the transforming of the sector was still going, or in the start even. And yeah, so I got a lot of requests of pictures, digital pictures from this, from that, and so on. And then, yeah, I know I have them. I have to look, and so on. I was searching for quite a while, and I said, okay, I need the keywords for the picture. So all the stuff where I'm not talking about was really new in 2005. And while I was giving the keywords for the pictures at, I think maybe picture 3,510. I discovered in my head, okay, or I was thinking, if it is me who can find the pictures by the keyword, maybe it's even better if the customer directly find the word. And this was how Landpixel, my kernel business, was established. It's a picture database, a stock picture database, agriculture, forestry, renewables, and so on, not only from Germany, but Europe and all over the world. So especially because of the help of my international friends, which brought me all over the world. So the database has pictures from all over the world. And yeah, but the plan then, yeah, if I just have the database, then I can write, was a mistake for sure, because there were new needs and new customers and so on. Why I'm saying this? Because the database nowadays is one of my main businesses. It's my kernel business, and it's giving or it's bringing me the turnover, even if I'm laying in the sun or having a cup of coffee, or if I'm at home in the pumpkin field or harvesting wheat or whatever. So this is really something which is really important to me. From the work, let me say from the work, it's, I would say, even a 50-50. 50% of the work in the journalism is text work, and 50% is photography in my picture database. And the combination of both text and pictures, nowadays a little bit of movie stuff and video stuff and so on, brought me to the point where you can make a living off. So I don't know if this was already a lot of information, if it already answered your questions. If not, maybe you have to repeat the kernel question.
Okay, great. Understanding the landscape, what outlets are used freelancers? What are the rates? How regularly will they need contributions? And does all this translate onto a stable monthly salary? Would you answer, Lily?
Yeah, I think it's you touching on what Sarah and Christian what is important is diversification. I think as Christian illustrates, he's actually got a very good model in terms of having something that generates income that doesn't necessarily, that's sort of running in the background. And I think that's an important point to touch on as well, because freelancing, just doing media, brings in a portion of the salary. But I think for most of us who are actually making a living out of freelancing, there's an important element to consider in communication work as well. And sometimes with communication work, you actually can pick up clients that are willing to pay a retainer. And that is always nice because it gives you a stable income. So at least you know that, by hook or by crook, you're going to get a certain amount in every month. So the retainer can be tricky to manage, because you have to, some months is busy and some months are quiet. So it's difficult sometimes to understand when a client is suddenly going to need a whole bunch of work done and when it's going to be a quiet month. So and then as a freelancer, especially if you're running your own business, you're always worried about how much money is coming in. So it's important also to do future projections and just try and establish at least 3 or 4 months in advance what schedule is looking like and what the money is going to come, what kind of money is going to be coming in. I find that's very important, because if I get approached to do a new project, or if I'm in a quiet moment and maybe I should go looking for new or pitch a new article, I need to understand, do I actually have the capacity? Because if I take on a new project now and my client suddenly gets busy, then I need to understand it's going to put me under a lot of pressure. So, but if I do a projection for 3 or 4 months and I know what income is coming on, then I know, is it a good idea to take on this extra project now? Do I actually need the money? Or am I actually going to be okay in saying no to the project because I know the next couple of months' income is going to be okay? So it's always a bit of a juggling act. And I found, in the first couple of years, you are quite panicky because you are on an uncertain income. And sometimes it takes a while to become a steady income where you're quite certain of what is going to come in. And then you don't want to say no to anything. You just want to keep saying yes to everything, take on every project you can. And at some point you do actually reach burnout. And that's not good, because if you reach burnout, your quality starts dropping. And as a freelancer, you are only your last project.
Yes, it's true.
And
Sarah,
then you struggle to.
yes. Sarah, how much do I need in savings to see me through the first few months before I income stabilizes?
It's an important question, because and it's relative for sure. And I believe that in my case, it's important to research the cost of living where you live, understand the social benefits, if any, and take the equivalent to support yourself, at least a half year in that place. Taxation and the existence of special policies for freelancing can also be important, but it's totally relative, I believe.
Okay. And Christian, what will my immediate and then monthly annual expenses, overheads entail?
Good questions and good question. But yeah, so first of all, I have to say, I think we are members now from all over the world. You can't compare it directly because the standard of living is different in the countries all over the world. Maybe I should go one step back to this, to the other questions, to the other question. What is always a good start if you want to start as a freelancer? Like I said, it's a situation like I had. So I was not married, no kids, no house, just a rental flat and so on, and almost a student, just a little bit older and so on. Then the step, not for deciding to an employed job, but to be a freelancer, is much more easy if you have the pressure from the money yours. So you have to care for the kids, for your wife, for the house, for whatever, and you have the expenses. So it's something you really have to think about, because if you start, then for sure it should be a success. And for myself, it was a benefit that I already had started in this over the years during my studies, that I already had, not only from a local paper, but also for the more and more coming then magazines and so on, a little bit of a feeling for what I can earn. The situation might be different in the countries, but here in Germany, we have a lot of regional regional papers which are no common competitors, like for example in the north of Germany, in Saxon, which is the east and the middle and the south and so on. They're not competitors. So for me, a kernel question was, is it possible to write one story and even sell it without doing a lot of work on it, and in addition to sell it a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and so on? Really to work to one of the magazines for the rate they normally pay, which for example could be 100 or 150 euro a page, which is not much. There it's really hard to make money on, where you can really make a living on. So but if you can use the same story for, let me say, about a special topic. For example, last June I was in Sweden to a forestry fair. No German colleague was there, so I could sell the story at least 10 times or so. Then it is also really business in this. So this is one thing. Maybe I'm also not comparable because we have the farm, which I built up over the years, and get a little bit of income also from the farm. But why I'm mentioning this, not everybody has a farm, but the farm was almost not there. It was really small, and over the years, when I had good years, I was investing money to build up this the farm, because I know business in freelance journalism can be 1 month really good and the next 2-3 months really bad and so on. I said, okay, I need something like a buffer, especially for the years when I'm getting a little bit older. I'm 49 now. That you need a little bit of buffer, that some money comes in at least, even if no customers are there and asking for the articles and pictures.
What do you think about that, Lindy? You have some comments to add?
Yeah, I think building a buffer is a really good idea. I mean, you need to be able to, when you have a good month, put some money away in case there is a bad month. I mean, the argument is always that your income is so uncertain with freelance, and you don't have a permanent employment contract, so you're not quite sure of your employment. But at the end of the day, you can work for a media house and they can give you 1 month's notice. if they are retrenching staff, which is happening a lot in the media industry at the moment. So it's not really that different in that regard. But I think what's really important is, and it's a lot of what Christian is saying, you need to be a bit of a hustler if you are freelancing. If anybody who's running their own business and has to bring in that, you need to be looking at opportunities the whole time. Don't go to a place, get one story, sell the story once, and sit back and think, well, that's it. You need to really investigate every opportunity. Every time I see there's a new publication, I consider, is this somebody that I can work for? Is it a story I can pitch to? What kind of story can I pitch? So you need to be thinking the whole time about what's the next thing. And that's why I said that the forward projection of your income is so important, to understand where you are right now and where you might be in 6 months' time. Some publications are weekly, some monthly, some quarterly. There is a bit of an ebb and flow with the income. But you always need to be looking for opportunities. And of course, with if you are kind of it's strange. Some of the media houses, they subtract tax before they pay me, and others don't, which means I need to do a tax return at the end of the year. And so it's important that you also keep money for something like that when you have to pay your taxes at the end of the year. And of course, anything. I mean, your laptop can break. There's no employer that's going to give you another one. So it's all good to have some kind of a buffer.
Okay, let's continue. This is a question very interesting for the next freelancers. Am I the type of person that can make a success of freelancing? Am I aggressive enough to seek out clients? Can I sniff out stories, or do I need them to come to me? Am I flexible and willing to do communications and not solely journalism if the opportunity arises? It's a question for all of you. Maybe you can start, Sarah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for the question, Eddie. I believe the first thing you need is to have no fear, be open to challenges, because there are a lot of, and dealing with about what you don't know. The second step is planning. The third step is building a strong network of contacts, what we were talking about, and the same nerve required, for example, to seek new source in a new country should also be used when seeking new clients or companies, and in this case, keeping your portfolio up to date in your own language and in English for sure is important, and as is keeping your LinkedIn profile up to date. This would be my basic tips, I think.
Okay, Christian.
Have to switch on my microphone. Okay, yeah. I would say that what Sarah said, it's almost covers already a lot of this. So especially network, I would say at least 50% of my jobs I got through my network. So for example, last weekend we had the annual conference here in Germany and so on. And as we all know, for example, the picture business, there are millions of pictures somewhere in the world. You can buy pictures at Adobe stock, at Imago, whatever. And yeah, maybe even for much lower price. For example, if I just would like to have a combine and a wheat field and so on. Yeah, but the pictures, or from not every time, because the publishing houses, they also have the pressure from the business, from the money. They have to save money and so on. But yeah, a lot of people are buying the pictures. At Landpixel, for example, or I have two really good competitors here in Germany. They are even some kinds like partners there. And why is that? It's because of the network. It's because we also writing stories. It's also because from time to time we help them. So let me say, last minute for the deadline, an article is not coming, and they ask, hey, do we have something about this topic and so on, and I could help them out. So I just meant this kind of network really helps for the business. It's not only business, it's also a lot of yeah, this is what is in between the people. To be a freelancer, in my opinion, it's really a question of your heart. I think I could easily earn more money in another business and another position if I really worked hard on this and so on. But I decided 20 years ago, no, this is not me. I really would like to make my own business, really to decide myself how much I'm earning, for example. I know I can only decide it within a range what I earn or not, but I can really decide, yeah, I'm really today, I have a good day. I'm really willing to write or take pictures. I'm in a good mood and so on. And there are days where I say, no, it's better to harvest pumpkins or to make weed control because of this how I'm feeling today. So this is one important thing. And I would say for for myself, I would not change with yeah. There's no business, no job I really would like to change with somebody. It's really this what I want to do and which I do by heart. You also you asked if I'm, let me say, aggressive enough, more or less. I think with aggressive you mean how I'm standing between my competitors and so on to gain new customers. And this I have to say, over the last years, it developed a little bit in the direction that the need for freelancers for good work is higher than the demand. So we have to recognize that there are a lot of freelancers on the market who don't want to be a freelancer. They are just freelancing because they didn't get a job and so on. There are these kind of people who also work from time to time for the big magazines. But if they get an offer, even as a spokesperson somewhere, and so they're gone from the market. And yeah, it's even like this that I have to say, yeah, this the job I won't take. It's just too far to ride by car and so on, or I don't like the topic too much and so on. I am in the luxury position that I can say no. It's I don't do it. I just don't do it. So therefore, I don't have to be aggressive. There's not so much competition where I really have to fight against another freelancer and so. Yeah. This brings me to the point I said that I can decide even for myself, am I doing a story or am I not doing it? Now I lost a little bit the lines. Sorry, it's gone. Maybe it will come back. But the other question I think was if I have the right nose, I would say, to discover new stories and so, or if the stories have to come to me. I would say it's both. There are stories, there are magazines. Yeah, we are covering this and that. Are you willing to write a story? 3 pages until this date for this amount of money, okay, but then for sure there are stories, and over the years, and this develops for sure over the years, you have a feeling for it. If you say, yeah, this is a story, there is really a need for this for the in the magazines, and the same counts at least for the pictures. There are topics, new topics, for example, the fight about the tariffs between US and China and so on, the world market. Yeah, if you have the nose for this kind of pictures, even in this kind of things, and you are on the market and you have this pictures available, it could be quite successful. It's not back what I wanted to say. I had another thought, but maybe I can say it later on.
Okay, Lindy, we have to hear your opinion.
Yeah, so I think, I always say there's two things that I need to be. I need to be available and I need to be reliable. And by reliable, I mean I need to deliver high quality work that is on deadline. Every editor and myself that is also edits publications periodically and has to work with freelancers, the biggest frustration is people who don't stick to deadlines and people who don't stick to the brief, or they don't deliver quality work, or you can see that they rushed something. And I'm convinced that the reason I still have a job is because I'm reliable and because I meet a deadline and because I stick to the brief. So ultimately, it doesn't matter who you are, what job you have, what service you render, you are a problem solver. Whether the problem is to fill a page in a magazine or to create a video, you know, an editor has got a problem they need to solve, they have a page to fill. Who's going to fill that page? The editor doesn't need to hear about my issues with my laptop or my connection or my family issues or the fact that I couldn't meet the deadline for whatever reason. All they want is the story on time. So I need to understand that. I need to make the life of my employer or my client or whoever it is as simple and easy as possible. So I need to have the right mindset to make sure that I am a problem solver. I'm there to deliver a service. And as long as I do that, then I will always have a job. And I really do firmly believe that. So yes, you do need to have a certain kind of personality. You can't just rest on your laurels and you know, expect life and life's problems to take over. And you do need to be able to be flexible. If somebody needs you to do something tomorrow, then you do something tomorrow. And you shuffle your schedule around that within reason, of course. The other thing is that I just want to mention that is really important, that I'm finding really important as, you know, at this later age in my life, is that you do need to learn new skills. You need to understand that the world is changing, that the way things have been done isn't how they're going to be done. So I need to make sure that I understand what new technology and what new tools are coming into the marketplace and what new needs my clients or my clients have that they need me to be on top of. So I might not be the biggest fan of TikTok, but if I have a client or a publication that expects me to do TikTok, then I need to understand how to do TikTok and I need to learn how to do that very quickly. So there is definitely a measure of publicity involved. And then just on a last note, I think that is also very, very important is, and this is something I learned, you know, initially, you know, there's this weird kind of hesitation when you need to invoice a client or quote a client, and you kind of feel like, you know, is this something you can really charge for? And what do you charge? And sometimes you think, oh, you know, but you're at the function and anyway, you might as well write an extra story for somebody else or write a press release or take a photo or do a video. At the end of the day, you are there and you have experience, you understand the genre, you have the skill, and you have you are the person, you are a service provider. So if you are providing a service, that service comes at a fee. So you need to understand that you are operating a business. And when you see that as a business and you value the value that you bring, the client will value what you bring. And it's important just to approach it from a business mindset as well, so that you make sure that you get your invoicing right, you get your quotes right. And that means that you need to have the admin side of your business as well. So a lot of a lot of people aren't good with admin. A lot of journalists, you know, if you've never run your own business before, you're perhaps not used to doing admin. If you don't have your admin side right, your invoices aren't going to get paid.
Sarah, what are the most common pitfalls to avoid?
Sorry, is that a question for me? Sorry.
It's for me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Eddie. Talking about especially an international career, especially for those just starting out, I think the worst trap is expecting people to respect and recognize you the way you were recognized or you are recognized in your own country, because it doesn't exist. And it's starting from scratch and understanding that gaining the trust from your source can take a long time. You have to be patient about that.
Christian?
Yeah, one of the answers is connected to your previous question, which I haven't answered, about the combination of journalism and public relation work. I really try to make sure not to combine it. I think I could easily earn 3-4 times more if I work more for companies and so on, but I would really be recognized at the magazines as somebody who is writing, who is a journalist, who has some rules and values and so on when it comes to this. From time to time, there is a little bit of background work, but I never would like to cause a feeling at the customer said, yeah, this story we got from him now, how much is this really independent, how much is maybe not paid, but pushed or improved by companies and so on. And I think for me, and this is one of the big pitfall if you are not really reliable for your customers, if they really have the feeling that they don't trust you, and so this is really you can't get this back if you lose this. So this is really important for me. And the other thing is pitfalls. This is something which is connected to economy. Don't mix it up that the turnover is not the profit. And I don't know how the situation is all over the world, but I can imagine that the governments all over the world are a little bit interested that you pay tax, and if you start and make good money and so on, don't forget that then after 1-2 years, depends on when you make your declaration, that you also have to pay a lot of tax on this. And the third thing, even because this is also special freelancer, if you are employed, normally in Europe at least, you have some kinds of insurance, health insurance, and pension funds and whatever. As a freelancer, you have to care yourself for this kind of things. It's really important that you just don't look to the money, but really think, okay, how many years can I still do it? Do I really want to work till 75 and whatever, or do I have to work because to get my cost paid and so on? So finance is really important, and not, like I said, not mixing up turnover and profit.
Lindy, what do you think about it?
Yeah, so I think I've said quite a lot already, and I absolutely agree with what Sarah and Christian says. So just 2 short points from my point is the one thing is what I said is don't drop an editor or a client, because they will not use you again. So your reputation really is everything, and you need to be reliable. So yeah, I mean, sometimes disaster happens, and it happens, but if you make a habit of it, then it does impact your reputation, and that has a long-term effect. And the other one is burnout. Like I mentioned, when you are freelancing, you're always panicking about your paycheck if things are a little bit unstable, and you can tend to take on too much work, and that's detrimental as well. So as much as what you need to hustle and you're always looking for new opportunities, you also need to be very careful about what you can actually feasibly manage so that you can still put out a quality product.
Okay, and the last one, Lindy, how do I ensure continuous business?
Yeah, so that does get back to reputation. Unfortunately, that does take a while to build up. It doesn't happen in the first year that people just contact you out of the blue to help them with something. I found it was quite confusing in the beginning, because I was a full-time journalist at one stage, and then I became freelancing, but then I also did communications, and some people aren't always quite sure who you are, who you're working for again. Sorry, exactly what is it do you do? The danger is if they see you as a journalist, they might not realize that you can help them with communication work as well. And if they see you as only doing communication work and you start asking them questions, they don't realize, that you're actually a journalist. So you need to be quite clear when you are approaching people with what hat you are approaching them. But then also, in terms of advertising, you need to make sure people understand what you do. And of course, I mean, social media, LinkedIn, platforms like that, like Sarah mentioned, plays a role, because you need to advertise yourself to a certain extent as well. So that is something that picks up. But it really, I've been quite amazed at how word of mouth plays a role. And it really is a case of somebody hears that, oh, so-and-so does that, they're very reliable, ask them. So it's about building your network. You really need to have a good network. And if you have a good network and you are reliable, then I believe that continuous business will be a reality.
Christian?
Microphone, yeah. One point Lindy already mentioned, so be visible, so be on the platforms and so on. It doesn't mean that you have to be there every day and make a post or whatever three times a week, but just be there from time to time. And I can only speak a little bit for myself. I have myself, for example, on the Landpixel Facebook page from time to time, I'm posting pictures where I am, and yeah, for sure, also a few of my customers out there on this platform, and then they recognize, he's right now in the Hamburg harbor and taking a picture of a grain terminal or so. Oh yeah, we have this topic, especially in the next week, and so this could be maybe a picture, and so, and it's not only that maybe, and this is connected. This is connected that I can sell a picture more. It's more like, he's still busy. He's still always somewhere in the world and trying to get new pictures. And the second point is for me being there. So really to show the customers, it could be by newsletter or a call from time to time and so on, really that you're there, that you're still in the market. Maybe even in small talk, it could happen that that an idea for a new story will come up. And what I can also recommend, especially to the people who are new in the business, when the end of the year, you already know a little bit about the big events for the next year. For example, big exhibitions and so on, or field days which have a name and so and just give them something like a preview. Okay, next year we will be for sure there and there. And you mentioned the Euro Tier and DLG field days and Green Week in Berlin, for example, and so on, that they have it in mind. Oh yeah, if we need something, he's there. So this already gives a kind of a good feeling and for them, and helps you to get a stable business over the year.
Okay, Sarah, what do you think about this topic?
Yeah, I totally agree with Lindy and Christian. And in my case, for example, after moving to Europe, I launched my website where I compiled all my work so I could have material to present to potential clients and partners. The expression out of sight, out of mind is real for sure. And it's a bit like this. You need to talk to people about what to do. This applies to any professional, for sure. And you need to expose yourself at some level, whether in person or online, and you need to invest in yourself. If you are abroad, it's important to get to know at least your country's local ambassador, and in our case, in the agricultural attaché, for example, it's an important person to know and to talk sometimes. These are important connections, I believe.
Yes, of course. Okay, we are on time, but Martina, will you have any questions from the audience?
I don't see any at the moment. So if you have questions, you can place them.
If everyone have any questions, you can place in on the chat. Okay, Daniel Acevedo. But I don't see the question on the chat. He raised his hand.
So then we go to Amy Lemay. She has a question. How do you use artificial intelligence in your work?
Oh, great question. Who wants to answer?
Yeah. If I might answer, for many journalists, they see it more or less as a threat, because you can easily write long stories and maybe not too bad about every topic in the world. And sorry, this is a beep here. Okay. I for myself, I'm using it in a way of sometimes getting a little bit input, for example, I write a story about equipment for quad, for the ATV, and I just would like to know, what partners, what companies are there on the market, for example, and so on. So I get a few names, and I can go on their website and see a little bit what they offer, for example, and so I can get always, let me say, an impulse and an idea, and just like that somebody is throwing a ball and you catch it, and on this you start to work and so on. This is one thing. Get ideas, get impressions, and the other thing is what I'm using from time to time is yeah, we all love that what we wrote, and the long sentences and the complicated sentences and so on. And from time to time, I take the article and I hand it out to Mr. ChatGPT and ask, okay, what can I do better? What do you recognize? Because this is one really problem for freelancers. If I'm writing a story today, which is published in 3 months, I can't really then see what did they change and so on. Normally, I don't get feedback. If you work in the office with colleagues and so on, it's more or less that you could get a feedback. But here, I'm just one of one and get no feedback. And I get this feedback which I need from time to time to get better by Mr. ChatGPT. So this is how I use it.
Okay, Melanie F is asking, how often do you raise your rates or discuss rates with editors? In your experience, how responsive are they to this request? Who wants to answer? Lindy, Sarah? Christian?
Yeah, Eddie, I'll jump in.
One time a year, but it depends.
Lindy?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I haven't had a rate increase since I started 7 years ago, because the in terms of freelancing for print, the rates aren't up to me. It's up to the magazine. The magazines haven't raised the rates. I haven't dared asked because I know the media is under substantial pressure. I doubt they would increase the rates. On the contrary, I'm working with some journalists, mentoring them, young journalists, trying to bring them into the industry as freelancers as well, because there's definitely a need for it. And I've noticed that they are paying those journalists significantly less than what I'm getting. So I think, if anything, the media is trying to reduce the rate that they are paying. In terms of clients that are on a retainer, when the work has substantially increased, then I have asked for an increase, but it's not something that I commonly do. I think it's a bit of a tricky thing in the industry that we are in, perhaps because there is so much competition. It's not likely that you can push your luck in terms of getting increases.
You want to add something, Christian?
Not too much, but Lindy mentioned it. It's hard business nowadays, especially for the print magazines. So prices for paper are rising, for stuff it's rising and so on. And there is good material like stock pictures on the market. It's not really the time, but maybe the time will never come back, where you can really say, yeah, I would like to have this, and if not, then I don't work for you. It works more the other way around, to say, yeah, normally we should really work on the price because we have now the same price like 5 years ago, but we have the inflation, I have higher costs as well, and so on. I know the circumstances, but it helps me much more if, for example, a magazine is taken, instead of 3 or 4 pictures in a magazine, maybe 10 for the same price, instead of rising the price. Yeah, I got more per picture, but then in the end, I sell only 1 or 2 or so. At the end, it's a calculation like this.
Busani Bafana wants to know, he's interested to know from each of you, what has worked in terms of marketing yourself as a freelancer?
Can you repeat, please, Eddie?
Yes, Busani Bafana is interested to know how from each of you, what has worked in terms of marketing yourself as a freelancer.
I believe that is talking with the people, with all kinds of people, all the time, even here and even in Germany now, and choosing new people to be present in events, and these kind of things. I believe that are really important.
Lindy?
So for me, I mean, I email the editors. I mean, your network, your network works, but like I said, it takes some time. But ultimately, editors behind their desk, they get on with their day, and it's sort of the squeaky wheel gets the oil kind of a thing. So if your email is in their inbox and you're offering them a story and they happen to need a story, then they're gonna commission it from you. But for me, I've when I started out, I went through all the agriculture publications that there are locally and abroad to have a look at who would want articles. I mean, I'm in South Africa, so I'm quite isolated. For me, writing for a European publication is tricky unless they want an article about South Africa. But I would just advise, contact the editors directly, ask them if they would be interested, and be ready to give them examples, because it's one thing to say, hey, I'm a freelancer, I can help you. It's another thing to actually give an editor an idea of what you can do, the type of article that you can do. And then also sometimes you actually just have to go ahead and write the article and send it to them and ask them if they would be interested. But that's a last resort. I would first just email them directly.
Christian?
Yeah, so the same. Talk to the people, really be in touch with them, and be open and developing stories, maybe even together. And so they have we also have to write something about this and that, and then come with your own ideas and so on. This helps all already a lot. And because I've also seen one of the questions, I think it was Chris, about if the magazines are not pissed off if they have the same story. No, not at all. It even works like this, that somebody has seen, oh, I've seen your story in the Land and Force magazine. We would like to publish it as well. Is it possible? I said, yeah, for sure.
Okay, a question from Mirna Stark Leader from Kelowna, Canada. How much of your work now comes to you through an ask, and what percentage is your pitching an idea? Sarah?
I'm thinking about it. If Lindy can speak a little about it, maybe I have an answer. Let me think about it, please.
Okay, Lindy?
So I have fixed publications that I write for on a regular basis. So it's not that I have to pitch to the editors the whole time, but I do have to pitch the actual stories. I'm not quite sure what you mean by your question, but I have not really had to go out and look for new business in a very long time. I've been very fortunate that the publications I write for are stable, but I'm always the one. But I know what the schedule is, and I know if it's a weekly or a monthly or a quarterly. At some point I need to send the editor an email and say to the email and tell the editor, these are the 5 stories I'm going to do for the next publication. So I'm always pitching the actual stories, but I'm not actually pitching for new work, because my clients have been very stable.
Christian?
Nothing more to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you have something?
Yeah, I believe I was listening, thinking, I believe that these days I tend to get work from regulars. I would say some 5 and 10% come from newsers. Sometimes it happens, but how I have my common search, regular search, it's my reality today.
Okay, Mercy Achin is asking, as a freelancer writer, what are some of the news outlets can pick to my stories and get paid?
Oh, it depends entirely where you are based. Like I said, for an example, me in South Africa, I'm very limited to the publications in South Africa, because it's very awkward for me to write a story about something that's happening in Germany for a German publication. I'm not on the ground. So you have to look at what is in your own country. And sometimes you just have to literally Google agricultural news and see what websites pop up, and then see in what countries they are and who you can pitch to. So it is very, very country specific.
Okay, Daniel Acevedo Duarte from Brazil is asking, how many hours do they typically spend prospecting new clients? Is this a regular planned activity?
I can say maybe something about it. Good question, Daniel. Let me say it should be a regular activity. This is maybe one of the the biggest problems in my office. You are sometimes really caught in your loop, in your daily work and so on, and that maybe some kind of work is really not done. And this is something which is really important, because there are and so many customers still on the market, like in Germany, in Europe, all over the world, which maybe would be happy to get in touch with me, to get a story, a few pictures, and so on. And oh, sorry, my daughter's here. Hey, warte bitte. Psst, 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 bitte Ruhe. Alles klar. Gehst du bitte runter? Christina, es geht gerade nicht. I'm sorry. Normally I should do it, but I don't find the time, or maybe also sometimes not the energy to do it. But the market is full. I mean, it should be part of the work, and let me say, every month, half a day, or every week, half an hour or so, just do it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree with Christian, and I believe that is important. But in my case, for example, oh, that's beautiful. Shun mentioned, but I believe that in my case, for example, I am alone, so I have my limits too, and sometimes I have hired another freelancer to work with me. It's not so easy to search for another clients because we have our limitations too.
Okay, Richmond Frimpong is asking two questions. Is social media presence affecting your chance of getting more clients? And the other one, does freelance journalism have future? Yes, of course, Richmond, great future. But let's ask the experts. Lindy.
Yeah, so I think social media presence, I don't know, it's like marketing. You never quite know how did somebody actually come to hear from you? And did they hear about you somewhere, and then they saw you 3 times on LinkedIn, and then they decided to contact you? So I think with social media, it's good to have a presence there. It's good to make sure that people know what you do. But I think at the end of the day, it really is your network, because people do business with people, and they want to know who you are and what you stand for and the kind of person that you are more. And that comes from personal interaction. Whether there's a future, absolutely. I think, in South Africa, the media landscape is looking quite bleak at the moment. There's a lot of retrenchments. A lot of the companies are closing down. But I just find that the need for a freelancer, and a good, reliable freelancer, is there is an absolute need for that, because ultimately there's still content that needs to be produced. And I think there's going to be very many years before that changes. We don't know what it's going to look like in 10 years' time, but you're always going to need somebody who visits a farm, who speaks to a farmer, who gets the story firsthand. There's just certain things that ChatGPT can't do. So I think freelancing is absolutely, it's got a future. And I think, in today's world, where people want to work on their own terms and want to do things in their own time, I think it is even more so, because you do have a lot more flexibility with freelancing, that's for sure.
Okay, Soha from is asking, do you think freelancers have a responsibility in convincing media houses to pay well enough, and that they pay at least every year some more?
I think it's a very difficult situation, Addy. As I mentioned before, the media is under pressure, and the market is full of journalists. I don't think that there would be. I think it's certainly worth having the conversation, but from a business point of view, I can 100% understand that. From there, they can only afford so much. A lot of the publications are running at a loss at the moment, so it really is a question of either you take that rate or you don't. But of course, you do need to always have that conversation about quality, and quality has a price tag to it. So, and you need to not underestimate your value. I think it's very important that you don't start undercutting yourself and giving discounts or doing stuff for free, because you need to be very careful about the precedent that you're setting. If you decide to do something for free today, you must understand you can't charge for it tomorrow. So I've been, and it's been difficult for me as well, because sometimes you think, oh, it's the first time you're doing it, you're not quite sure how to quote. and then you quote a bit lower than what you should. But ultimately, you need to, everybody needs to understand that they are paying for value and you need to give them value. But there's very, very little wiggle room in terms of raising prices.
Sarah, Christian?
Yeah, I believe that every professional has an important role in this, in maintaining decent payments. It's an important role.
Christian?
Yeah, responsibility is a big word, so I'm not responsible for the whole thing. I'm responsible for my work, and there I have to make a living of. And like said, the circumstances they are like they are. They have costs which they can't avoid, like paper, like stuff and so on. They can reduce the stuff, and this kind of things. And we have the inflation. Like said, the times right now are not the best to say, yeah, but I need more for my story. And I even would say, as long as they could fill the paper, even with work which they do from the desktop, they got press releases in, but they also get from time to time good information from organizations and so on, and they fill with that the paper and they survive and so on. It could be a way, so they don't need to pay higher prices to freelancer if they really don't need it. But like said, it depends from magazine to magazine.
Okay. Owen Roberts asked, what can IFAJ do to support freelancer members specifically, or should it do anything?
Yes, I would like to say something about this. Thank you, Mr. Roberts, for this question. And because maybe remember the first Congress I had was in Guelph, where you're from. And from this moment, I joined together with my friend Schuertowski, who was here in the circle. Christina, nein. Bitte geh. I'm sorry. From this moment on, we joined every Congress. And it's really, really important, in my opinion, to make this what we had now, the last 1 hour and 20 minutes, to make this possible. People meet people, and this is also nowadays international work. I'm not only having customers in Germany, they are in Europe, even then somewhere in the world, and make the congresses be still a meeting point for journalists, not only for spokesperson and retired person. Make it really, let me say, Congress fees available for a good price that really people are willing, because they know, yeah, there are my colleagues from all over the world, even the customers and so on. There we could be a network and so on. So this is my big wish and my big hope.
Sarah?
Yeah, I believe that by organizing, for example, events like this, one, the association is already bringing ideas, insights, and connecting people. That's important, and I'm happy to be here today.
Okay. We have another question from Becky Simmer from Canada. When do you decide when a story or connection is not worth or your time and energy? Christian?
It turns out mostly really quick. For example, if I have a customer say, yeah, it's nice and I'm interested in your work and so on, and he's not willing to pay anything, this is a connection, I would say. It could be from time to time that you have to invest something in a new connection, but then you come really quick to a point where you recognize that, no, this is really not a business in the long-term run. And so, but I have to say, maybe this was a point I would like to mention before. I'm even doing work which is not well paid, even if I could do better paid work. And it's because really a story which is touching me, or we're saying it's really worth that it should be told, and so, and it's worth that it is published and so on. And there it could be that there are stories where I don't make money with. So it's not always the money. It's also sometimes some stories have just to be written, even though if it is a zero.
Sarah?
I believe I agree with Christian. And sometimes you don't know if it's a good idea or if not, it's not a good idea, but you have to decide and to think about it and work in that.
Okay, we have a question from the great Luis Pitombo from Brazil. He been working as a photographer and editor for 40 years in Brazil, and he has a question for Christian. Not only for freelance work, but colleagues and magazines are happy to do both jobs about unfair competition and capacity.
I don't know if I got the question right. It's a question about, but now you can't
Yes.
answer. Is it meant like that if it is a problem to do both jobs, writing and for photography? Sorry, we really didn't get the kernel of the question.
Neither me, but maybe Luis, you can reformulate the question. I have another question from Chris McCullough. Many editors today are not so competent at their jobs and move on their new positions quite often. Many do not answer emails. How do the panelists overcome this hurdle? Sarah, Christian?
I can say something. No, I don't have this problem. I'm working with the editors. We're working with. I'm working for them over 10, 20 years even, and so nowadays I see them more and more going retired. Maybe a little bit of the truth is that young people are starting in the business and then they switching, but this is just normal, and there are also young people who started 10 years ago and still there in the market. So it's not a general problem in my opinion.
And for you, Sarah?
Yeah, I believe that is the same.
Okay. Okay, there's no
Not
more
much
questions, so we have to end this webinar. Thank you all from me here, and of course, thank you from the panelists from your time. I think it was a very, very interesting webinar. See you soon, okay?
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Martina and Lindy. Nice to meet you. See you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, all of you.
And Adi, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.